Welcome back to Pink Turtle Soaps. Today I'm making pumpkin spice cake soap, and y'all, this fragrance, it smells just like pumpkin spice. I'm making it just for you pumpkin spice lovers out there. I've had a lot of people request this fragrance, or some sort of pumpkin spice fragrance, so that's why I chose to do one for this fall. So the fragrance has that traditional spicy sort of nutmeg note to it, but it also has a creaminess, like a cream cheese, like icing almost. It smells really delicious, and I think it's going to be the perfect fragrance for this fall. So our very first step is to pour our lye water, which is sodium hydroxide mixed with distilled water, into our oils, and then we're going to blend them together, and that makes soap. Okay, so now that everything is nice and blended, I'm going to split it up into 3 other containers. We're going to have 2 larger containers and 1 smaller one. Alright, so now we're going to add the colorants. In this smaller container, I'm adding some titanium dioxide, and that'll make it white. But this fragrance oil does discolor to a medium shade of brown, so I'm interested to see how that works with the titanium dioxide. I'm thinking after the soap cures, it'll be a light shade of brown. Plus, I think it'll look really cool if this fragrance speckles. If you watched the Happy Birthday Vanilla video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In one of the larger containers, I'm adding Honey Blush. It's a really pretty light shade of brown. In this container, I'm adding Mocha Brown. And all these colorants come from Nurture Soap, and I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check some of these out for yourself. Okay, so now that everything has its colorants, I'm going to use a stick blender and blend them lightest to darkest. Okay, so now that everything is nice and blended, I'm going to add the fragrance oil and then mix that in by hand. I'm mixing the white up first because it's starting to thicken up. Titanium dioxide does that. In most cases, it'll like speed up the soap faster than other colorants, which is fine. It's still definitely fluid enough to pour. And this fragrance oil is doing just fine. Go over to this Honey Blush. Mix that fragrance in. I'm really interested to see how the fragrance oil alters this shade and the white. I'm not really expecting much from this dark brown because it's really dark, but you know, I'm curious to see what happens. Come over here to this Mocha Brown. This is one of my favorite colorants. If you're looking for something that's going to make your soap like really chocolatey or really dark brown, highly recommend checking out the Mocha Brown. Okay, so the fragrance is nice and blended in all the colors, so I'm going to go grab my molds. Okay, so I think we're going to start with the dark brown. I'm just going to do a drop swirl today. Pour quite a bit of it. And then come in with this Honey Blush. It's almost like a really pretty caramel color. Pour that in. Again, I'm pouring quite a bit of it. And then I'm going to come in with this white, which has gotten pretty thick. That's going to make for a really cool swirl. It means that that white won't really get swirled around with the other colors. It'll stay pretty separate, while the 2 browns will sort of marble together. So it'll look really cool. I'm going to pour this from up high so that it gets all the way to the bottom. I almost decided to use the hanger swirl tool, but decided against it. Okay, we're starting to get full, pretty close up to the top of the mold, so I'm going to come back in with this white one more time. Try to pour it carefully though, I don't want it to gloop down and splash some of the soap out. I'm going to make one more pass with this dark brown. Try to push that white down. This one's pretty full, so I'll finish up this side with the light brown. I'm going to just pat it a little bit. Make sure that it gets in all the corners. My soap is thickening up pretty quick now, but to be honest, I'm not sure if that's because of the fragrance oil, because I used my stick blender on a higher setting, and I did that on purpose because I didn't want the soap batter to be really fluid. If you're wanting your colors to stay pretty separate, you want your soap to be a little bit thicker. If it's really fluid, then the colors sort of swirl together and you don't get as much like separation between the colors. So now I'm just going to let this sit, and I'm going to move over and start prepping the piping, and we'll come back when it's time to pipe the soaps. Okay, so the piping is almost ready, and I'm actually doing something that I've never done before, so I'm a little bit nervous. I'm actually adding a gold mica drizzle inside of the piping bag, so whenever I pipe the soap, it should leave a gold line on each like little dollop, and fingers crossed that it works. I've been meaning to do it for a while now, and every time that I think I'm going to do it, I chicken out and just do a plain piping. But at some point I've got to do it and just, you know, get that practice in. Okay, so fingers crossed that this works. It is still a little bit runny. Ooh, that's pretty. Let's do a few more. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it definitely is making the piping really shimmery. I don't normally pipe this runny. I have in the past, but now I like to wait till it gets pretty firm. But with this mica drizzle, I really couldn't wait any longer. But now that I see that it doesn't look completely atrocious, let's just go ahead and pipe the rest of the soap. So while I was piping, I noticed that you couldn't really tell a difference between the gold mica and this really bright orange. It was still giving it like a gold sparkly appearance, but it wasn't that noticeable. So I stopped putting it in with the piping bag, and I decided to save it till the very end, and I'm just going to drizzle it on top lightly. That way you still get that gold shininess, but it just saved time while I was piping. Some bars may get quite a bit, some may only get a little bit. Actually, I take that back. I'm going to make a little bit more so that way it's even across the loaves. Okay, so now that I've got more, I'm just going to go ahead and add it to the loaves, and then I'll show you my next step. In these cups, I have Epsom salt that I mixed with the mocha brown and the honey blush. So I'm just going to take those and sprinkle those on really quick. This is another reason why I used a textured piping tip. That way there were grooves and the salts would have somewhere to land and would be more likely to stick to the soap. Alright, so the soap is finished, and we will come back in about 24 hours, and I'll come back and check to see if it's ready to cut, and if it is, we will cut it up and check the inside. We are back about 4 days later. I was actually able to cut up one of the loaves the day after I made this soap, but I left this one in the mold just a little while longer, about 2 days longer. And I did that on purpose just to see if there was any difference in the coloration. Here is a bar from the loaf that I cut the next day, and that white has sort of turned a little bit of a dark cream. It's not darkening up at a really fast rate, so it may actually not turn that dark. Let's go ahead and cut off this first bar. So this is what the inside of this loaf looks like. There's not much of a difference. This is the one I just cut, and this is a bar from the loaf that I cut a few days ago, and the colors are pretty much the same. This soap may actually not turn as dark as I was expecting it to. The smell is also very strong. It smells so good. So let's go ahead and cut up the rest of this loaf. Here's an up-close look at the piping. Maybe you can see that gold drizzle on top a little bit better. And then you've got the Epsom salt that I colored in the light brown and the dark brown. If you'd like to grab yourself a bar, these will be available at pinkturtlesoaps.com November 1st at 8 a.m. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. And if you like soap making videos, be sure to subscribe because I put up new soap making videos every Wednesday. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.